Hello, and thank you for joining us for this discussion on bullying, specifically the evolution of bullying. This webisode is part of a series that's brought to you by Mission Healthy Living. Joining me today is Officer William James, and Officer James is the School Resource Officer with the Pottsgrove School District.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us, taking the time out to talk about bullying. It certainly has become quite a hot topic. Unfortunately, actually. And I think it's an important topic because I think a lot of parents, they're aware that it's out there, but they may not be aware that their child is being bullied or their child is the actual bullier. But I think we want to kind of take a step back and we want to say, what is bullying? I think we all kind of have that definition in our mind, but we really need to, I think, break it down because it's kind of different than what it was. So can you kind of discuss the definition of bullying per se as it is today?
Absolutely. When we talk about bullying today, we're looking at it. Textbook definition would be an aggressive behavior. It's intentional. It involves the imbalance of power and strength. When we look at it and we dig deeper into the definition of bullying, we're looking at repeated acts of violence towards another person. We're also looking at physical or emotional, maybe even social behaviors involved in that. And on top of that, we're talking about intentional controlling. It's intentional, it's controlling, it's hurtful. And even if you take it even deeper and start looking at what some of the studies are showing, it's a learned behavior. And we're talking at the age of 2, we've seen in studies that this has occurred as early as 2 years old.
That's scary.
It is. It's very, and you know, our parents, there's parents out there, I myself am guilty at times. You have a young child, you get a call from the daycare center that they're at or the learning center that the child's gone to, and they say, oh, your son stole toys from another child. You know, we had to put him in timeout, or, you know, they stole Cheerios, you know, off the high chair of another child. And the parents say, oh, well, you know, okay, right, and they think it's cute.
You don't think it, too, that it's any big deal. But you bring up a good point, which is kind of where I wanted to go, is kind of the evolution of bullying. That's what you think of bullying, you know, oh, I took this, I beat you up, I took you down for your lunch money, or I just made fun of you, teased you on the way home. It's a lot more than that. That still occurs, obviously, but talk us through the evolution, Officer James. It's become a lot more severe with more tragic results.
Well, let's go back to the time that we were in elementary school. And as I went and studied more on bullying and cyberbullying, I started to look at the back in the days when we were in elementary school, or even my parents were in elementary school, or their parents as well. And you look at it and you think, you know what, we all had this misconception that bullying only took place in the schoolyard. Mm-hmm. But bullying was taking place in office complexes, in grocery stores where people worked, on the street. You know, the bully, it's more than just the schoolyard. But when we think of it, it evolved from, in our mindset, it evolved from the schoolyard. You had the bigger student who decided to take, I want your lunch money, or I want your milk money, or you had the child that was less developed. And so the bully would go ahead and pick on that child. And as it evolved, it not only went from the elementary schoolyard, but it would carry on even into the middle school.
Right.
And at that time, it would get progressively violent. The student now refuses or tries to take a stand because they don't want to give over the lunch money, or they don't want to do that certain thing that it could be constituted as a crime.
Right.
And so the bully now reacts even harsher. Mm-hmm. May get a couple of other students and jump that student. But even more so on that, even into the high school level, it then starts to become, you know, they're picking on them, calling them names, making up stories about them, passing rumors that really didn't exist. It not only wears on a student when it's verbalized to him, it doesn't only wear on him, his nerves and all that, but in the psyche, in your psyche, it really plays an important role, because then that student starts to internalize things. Well, what's the matter with me? Why, over the years, did you pick on me?
Right.
Not only and everybody looked at the bully as the male. It was male dominant. And maybe so back in the earlier days, even probably before I was in elementary school. But now we're also seeing it verbalized by females.
Wow.
And when you start talking about females, it's a lot.
Girls can be mean.
Absolutely. And it's harder to investigate. It's harder to detect. But when it occurs, they're pretty forceful, and you're absolutely right. They can be very mean.
Very mean. And now you have the addition of texting and Facebook and the whole social media aspect of it, that just adds another layer that you and I were talking about, that it's constant now. You were telling me how a child, they had this at school and then they could go home and rest their psyche, so to speak. Now it's nonstop.
Oh, sure. They were able to process it and then, perhaps work through it, even tell a parent. Remember the old adage or the rhyme that parents used to say, sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me?
That's not so true.
It's not. And we start to learn that as we go even deeper into the bullying issue, and then take it even a step further, like you said, into the cyberbullying, which is just bullying stepped up one level more, because now the child, like you said, goes home and he not only sees it on his Facebook or whatever social network he's in, but he's getting emails, he's getting text messages, and a barrage like that, the child doesn't have a chance to take it in and process what's going on.
Exactly. Now, schools appear, and this certainly relates to you because you're actually a school resource officer, but they appear to be cracking down on bullying. But what are some typical repercussions for kids that are caught bullying, and are there legal ramifications? I think a lot of times people think, oh, you just whatever, but I think nowadays there's a lot more involved and at stake.
Well, let's just take bullying. Bullying in itself is harassment. And anytime that there's a repeated act towards another person, whether it's verbalized, whether it's written down, communicated in a note form or over the computer, or however they communicate that harassment, see, we have to take bullying. It is totally a harassment issue. And so within the law, there's summary offense harassment, which says that, okay, if I say it to you, then it's summary. That means that you're going to see your local district magistrate, and then you're going to have to plead your case there, and you'll probably end up with a fine or community service. But the moment that you put it on paper, the moment that you put it on a cell phone, the moment you put it on the computer, it then takes it from being a summary offense to now a misdemeanor of the third degree, harassment by communication. Now, schools have gone ahead and instilled through the Department of Education a bully policy, where you have to now have a bully policy that says, or an anti-bully policy that says, it's not going to be tolerated, and this is the section that's going to be charged, and it's under harassment as well. And it has to be posted throughout in your classrooms, in your hallways, in any area that the students are going to be, active inside that school. And then from there, we set up that if a student comes to us and says they're being harassed or bullied, then we investigate it. And we pull all the parties, witnesses, the victim, the bully. And then once we get all of the information down, then what we do is we decide what's the punishment.
To see more in this series of webisodes on bullying, please go to www.missionhealthyliving.org.